So you're thinking about moving to Seattle, Washington, but before you do, you want to find out everything you can about the pros and the cons, the good, the bad, everything in between. Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover in this video. I'm going to talk about the top 5 pros as well as the top 5 cons of living here in Seattle, Washington. I've lived here my whole life. Seattle is a great city to live in. I absolutely love it. But there's some not so good things about it too that I think you should probably know about before you make that move. Make sure you stick around till the end of the video because the last con that I'm going to cover is something that doesn't get talked about very often. And to me, I think it's a pretty big deal. You might think it's a big deal too. So stick around, check it out, and let's get after it right now. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything about living in Seattle, Washington, then subscribe down below, tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to learn about the current market here in Seattle. My name is David Sappenfield. The team and I, we get calls, texts, and emails every day from people just like you looking for help to make their move to Seattle. So whether you're moving next week or next year, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. You can even schedule a Zoom call in the link down below. We're happy to help you make that smooth move to Seattle. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're gonna go over the top 5 pros and the top 5 cons of living here in Seattle. Let's start off on a positive note and go over the pros. All right, so the number 1 pro of living in Seattle is the scenery and the outdoor life that comes along with living here in Seattle. I think Seattle's probably one of the most beautiful cities that I've been to. The iconic Seattle skyline, the Olympic Mountain Range off to the west, you have Puget Sound views all throughout the area. You have the Cascade Mountain Range over to the east, and then you have Mount Rainier views as well. It's just one of the most beautiful places that I think I've ever been to. And what comes along with that is being able to do activities outside 365 days a year. You know, we have boating, fishing, camping, skiing, hiking, rock climbing, you know, just about any outdoor sport that you can think of, you can do here in Seattle. The cool thing about where we're located is within a few hours in each direction, you have, you know, greatly different things you can do outside. So if you head 3 hours to the west, you hit the Pacific Ocean and beach life and everything that comes along with that. If you head about 2 hours east, you're gonna run into the Cascade Mountain Range and snowboarding, skiing. You know, you got Stevens Pass, Snoqualmie Pass, all of that about 2 hours away. If you head another hour or so east, you're going to run into, you know, Eastern Washington, which is a completely different climate than here in Seattle. It's almost like desert-like, really warm and dry in the summertime, super cold, gets a lot of snow in the wintertime, but summertime activities over in Eastern Washington are pretty incredible. Lake Chelan, Wenatchee, you know, just so many cool spots in this state to enjoy just every day of the year, really. So that's why that's probably the number 1 pro in my book about living here in Seattle. Okay, pro number 2, no income tax. That's right, Washington is one of 9 states with no income tax. And what does that mean for you? Basically means that your paychecks are going to be bigger. Comparatively speaking, if you lived in the neighboring state of Oregon, you'd pay about a 10% income tax to the state. And by living in Washington, you're avoiding that. So every time you get paid, you're going to have a little bit more in your pocket. Now, it definitely should be mentioned that because we don't have an income tax, we do pay higher taxes in other areas. And those other areas are things like excise tax, real estate taxes, gasoline tax is pretty high comparatively speaking to the rest of the country. We pay pretty high sales tax on goods that we purchase here, about 10%, which is top 5 in the country. So they're definitely getting that tax money from other areas, but not having an income tax is pretty cool if you ask me. Okay, pro number 3, career opportunity and local economy. So Seattle has an incredible amount of career opportunity, especially in the tech industry. In fact, Seattle consistently ranks in the top 10 of best cities in the country for jobs. You know, in our own backyard, we have tech giants like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple. You know, we have Boeing for the aerospace industry. Consistently, Seattle ranks really, really low, like top in the country for unemployment rate. Like right now, currently we're around 2.6%. And all of these big companies that call Seattle home are great for helping keep our unemployment low and local economy strong. Okay, pro number 4, the food scene. So as you know, Seattle is home to Starbucks. We're the most caffeinated city in the world, coffee shop on every corner. So if you like coffee, you're gonna love it here because you can get it everywhere. What most people probably think of when thinking of Seattle and food though is seafood. And we have probably some of the best seafood restaurants in the world right here in our own backyard. But maybe seafood's not your thing, looking for something else. Seattle has an incredible mix of laid back all the way up to upscale dining. Our Asian cuisine is incredible, you know, Thai, Japanese, Italian restaurants. Now, have plenty of the regular stuff like burgers and pizza joints, everything like that as well. We even have an incredible number of teriyaki restaurants, which I've noticed that the rest of the country doesn't really celebrate teriyaki like the Seattle area does. You can probably find 4 or 5 teriyaki restaurants in every suburb of the city for some reason, but it's fantastic. I love it. Good chicken teriyaki, you can't beat it. But our food scene's incredible. I love it. You never get bored with the same stuff. There's always something new to try. Okay, pro number 5, the weather. That's right, the weather in Seattle is fantastic. You probably didn't expect to hear that on this list of pros, did ya? But you know what? I love it. It never gets too extreme one way or the other. There's no tornadoes, there's no hurricanes. We do get a fair amount of rain, but really, if you're talking about total rainfall, we're not even in the top 15 of major metropolitan cities when comparing total rainfall. We do get a lot of rainy days, which is why we kind of get that bad rap of the rain city. But, you know, in the wintertime, that's just kind of how it is. It's gray, it's gloomy, you get some drizzle pretty much every day, it seems, but it's really not too bad. During the wintertime, we'll probably get snow 2 to 3 times a year. But what happens in the snow is it shuts everything down. So, you know, we just don't have the snow plows to get all the roads cleared. A lot of neighborhoods are on hills, so, you know, that makes it a lot tougher. So snow pretty much shuts the city down while we have it. But usually there's 2 or 3 snow events a year that shut things down. But it's fun. Kids love it. They miss school and everything's great. But the summertime is incredible here in Seattle. June to, I don't know, early October, late October, the weather is perfect. Low humidity, mid 70s every day. We get barely any rain during the summer months, and it's just about perfect weather, if I do say. I really could not see myself living anywhere else during those months because it is so perfect. But yeah, just one of the great things I love about Seattle is the weather. Okay, let's switch gears here and start talking about the cons of living in Seattle. So the number one con of living in Seattle has got to be the traffic and just the amount of bad drivers that we have to deal with. Now, if you're working remotely, this probably won't be an issue for you. But if you're traveling in those peak commute times, say the mornings from 6:30 to 9, evening time from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., then you're going to have a significant amount of time added to the commute heading to and from work. Now, this should get some relief within the next couple years. There's actually an extensive light rail system in the Seattle area that's currently under construction, should be done within a couple years. So that should help things out once that's completed and riders get used to riding that light rail system and helping, shortening their commute. So that should ease traffic congestion in a couple years. But until then, we're just gonna have to deal with the bad traffic how it is right now. It's unavoidable, just is what it is. And then as far as the bad drivers go, I drive every day, and I probably see someone where I question how they even got their driver's license. And, maybe it's like that in all cities, but I seem to see a lot of that here in Seattle. Okay, the second con I want to talk about is the Seattle freeze. Now, this has nothing to do with the weather. This is how you would describe some Seattleites, and maybe they come across as being standoffish, cold, distant, distrustful. Now, I'm not saying that people here are just rude, but when you're walking by and you see a stranger, you'll probably get eye contact, maybe a smile, maybe a good morning, good afternoon, but that's probably about all you're gonna get, because it seems that when people engage in conversation with strangers, they just kind of put this guard up, and it just doesn't happen very often. People just kind of stick to their own lane and I guess you could describe them as cliquey. The people that they hang out with is the people they hang out with, and it's kind of hard to break in to that group. And I notice it a lot more when I go and travel and visit other cities. It just seems that people are more engaging, friendlier, I guess you could say. But I do notice that a lot when I come back to the city. It just seems that people do have that Seattle freeze. Now, I think that the freeze is thawing because we have a large amount of transplant residents that have come from different parts of the world that now live here and make up a major portion of our city. So I really do feel like that is changing, but those old homegrown Seattleites just gotta watch out because they do have the Seattle freeze. Okay, con number 3, the high cost of living in Seattle. So it seems like everything costs more these days, whether it's due to high inflation or supply chain issues. It just seems like every little thing we buy costs more hard-earned money out of your pocket these days. And that's especially true here in Seattle. Despite the lack of income tax, we will pay a higher sales tax, we pay higher real estate taxes, we pay higher gasoline tax, we have to pay more for food, goods, services, and part of that is just the competition for resources, supply and demand. But another part of that is that Seattle pays higher than average minimum wage to its employees. And what that means is the employer is paying the workforce more money, which in return increases the cost of goods and services that us, the consumer, buys. So everything is a little bit more expensive, it seems, across the country, but that's especially the case here in Seattle. Okay, con number 4, homelessness in Seattle. Now, every city deals with homelessness. It just happens to be extra bad in Seattle right now. And it's evident by just driving downtown, going on the freeway. You can see in the grassy areas, there's tents set up. Even downtown on the sidewalks, there's evidence of homeless encampments and tents and other evidence of that around. And it's just gotten increasingly worse over the past decade. And a big reason for that is what we just talked about in con number 3, which is the high cost of living caused by gentrification in certain neighborhoods. There's also a lack of publicly owned affordable housing, and just the economic impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has put on the area. And it's all culminated in an increase in the homeless population in Seattle. And hopefully city leaders will put a plan together to hopefully get this headed in the right direction. But as of right now, homelessness is a big issue in the city of Seattle. Okay, con number 5. And this is one that I was saying that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, but it's definitely an issue. And that's the lack of daylight that we get in the winter months. Now, during the summertime, like I was saying, it's great. But due to where Seattle sits, its line of latitude on the planet, we see extremes from both the summer and winter solstices. So we can see up to 16 hours of daylight in the summertime, which is great. You know, we got plenty of daylight after work. Sun rises nice and early in the morning, and everybody's happy. But come December, January, February, it gets dark, and we only see about 8 hours of daylight in the month of December. You know, it gets a little bit longer as we go through the, you know, January, February, but you know, it's dark. I mean, the sun is setting at 4:30. Sun doesn't rise until 7:30 in the morning. So, you know, you're waking up, it's dark. You're going to work, it's dark. You know, you get off of work and it's dark. And then on top of that, you know, it's pretty cloudy most of the time in the winter time here. We see a lot of drizzle, so just a lot of drizzly days. You know, you look on that weather map and you see just 7-10 straight days of just kind of drizzle, which does start to wear on you after a while. You know, you're just begging to see some sunshine. So lack of daylight, I would say, you know, that's pretty big. You know, a lot of people are suffer from like seasonal affective disorder. You know, if they don't get that vitamin D, they're not going to be the same. So if that's you, something that I would take into consideration before moving to Seattle. Okay, that just about covers our list of pros and cons for living in Seattle. Is there one that I missed that you think is a pretty big deal? Well, go ahead and drop it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you on that. And remember, whether you're moving next week or next year, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, even schedule that Zoom call, all in the description down below. And until next time, I hope to see you around town. See ya.